Hey, what's going on, guys? We're back here with another Knights of the Old Republic video, and today we're going to talk about some different strategies, tips, and things you might want to take into consideration if you're playing the game on hard difficulty, or if you're just struggling with the game in general. We're going to have 20 tips to go over today. A lot of them are basically going to be just play the entire game. Don't forget about different small parts of the game. Hopefully you find this helpful. If you do, go ahead and drop a like, hit subscribe, all that fun stuff that you know. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's go ahead and get into the video. All right, so tip number one may sound kind of obvious, but don't play the game on hard difficulty if you've never played the game before. I mean, Knights of the Old Republic is a great game. It's got a great story, the characters are very deep, have strong backgrounds, and a lot of things for you to investigate in the game. And if you've never played the game before, hard difficulty is not going to make that any more immersive. So don't take the time to try to investigate the stories, the backgrounds on hard difficulty. Play the game once, learn the story, learn about your characters, learn about their strengths, learn the bosses, learn the areas, and then afterwards, go back through, try it on hard difficulty if you're looking for a little bit of a challenge. But an easy way to ruin the experience for you is your first time playing to turn the difficulty up to hard, especially if you're not familiar with D20 mechanics and that style of combat. So please take that into consideration. If you've never played the game before, try it on easy or normal first, learn the game, and then come back and try it for a little bit more challenge. Now, tip number two is one that I normally try to shy away from, but if you're playing Knights of the Republic on hard difficulty, it is okay to do a little bit of min-maxing. The game is going to be a lot harder, your enemies are going to be tougher, so you are going to min-max a little bit if you want to be successful. Like I said, in Knights of the Old Republic 2, I am normally very anti-min-maxing. However, when you're playing on hard difficulty, you have to min-max a little bit because your opponents are going to be very difficult and a lot stronger. So have a plan, think about what you want your character to be before you start playing the game, have a roadmap for your character as well as your companions, and try to min-max them as much as you can to make them strong so that you're not getting bogged down in battles and not getting constantly defeated. All right, tip number three is one that I know a lot of people aren't going to like, but don't use two-handed weapons too early on in the game. I mean, I get it. We all love Darth Maul. We love the damage output you get with two-handed weapons. It's a lot of fun. There's just a lot to do with two-handed weapons, and there's just this strong feeling that we get whenever we're slicing someone up with dual blades or with a double-bladed lightsaber. However, early on in the game, the penalty that you are going to get for dual-wielding weapons is going to be so severe that you are going to miss attacks so often. You are better off sticking with a single weapon until you get at least improved two-handed weapons. So go ahead, stick to that one blade. I guarantee it's going to pay off, especially on hard difficulty. Stick to one blade until later on in the game, and you're going to have much more success in battle. Next up is going to be another tip that a lot of people are not going to like, and that is do not use the attack feats such as flurry, power attack, etc. too early on in the game. One of the most common questions I see in the comment section is, why are my companions not using critical strike, flurry, etc. during combat? And the answer is that the AI is actually kind of smart. In the beginning of the game, and especially when you're on your first world like Paragus or Taurus, your characters are going to suffer detrimental effects from that base level of flurry or rapid shot. If you use flurry early on in the game, you'll be lowering not only your chance to hit, but you will be also lowering your defense and making yourself more vulnerable to getting hit. At a time in the game when it already seems like you're missing hits all the time, there's no need to make your chances any worse. If you combine this with using two-handed weapons too early in the game, then you're going to be in for a very rough start. Slow down and use that basic attack for a while until you start to level up your feats. Next up on our list of tips is a very important one, and that is only buy what is ultimately necessary for you to survive. Now, we know that merchants are stationed all throughout the galaxy, and they have all sorts of nice shiny things that we can buy. But the truth is that we are probably going to loot either the same item or something even better somewhere along the way. So very rarely is it necessary for you to buy something expensive from a vendor. Now, once in a while, you will come across things such as lightsaber crystals or other things that are rare in the game. Those are okay to buy, and that's why you don't want to spend your money on other things. Keep your money, buy things that are very necessary and very rare. Use your leftover money to buy anything necessary for survival, such as implants or energy shields or med packs. Tip number 6 is one that I struggle with on a personal level as well, and that is do not be a hoarder. Now, this is something that anyone who plays RPGs can understand. If you've ever played Skyrim, you know that if you go back through either your house and go through your safe, or if you just look at your inventory, you're going to find probably hundreds of scrolls, potions, things that you want to save for that hard boss battle that's going to come, except that you never find a situation that's hard enough that you actually use them. So you just keep hoarding all of those upgrades, all those power-ups, all those extra weapons, and you keep them and you never use them. Do not do that on hard difficulty in Knights of the Old Republic. In Knights of the Old Republic 2 even, you can make more, and in both games, you can buy more. Use those upgrades such as battle stimulants, alacrity implants, etc. Use those in battle to give yourself the edge. Sometimes those can be the difference between life or death and success or failure in a battle. Tip number 7 goes right along with the previous one, and that is use energy shields as often as you can. Now, obviously, I'm not endorsing waste, but like I said in the last tip, do not just keep your energy shields for the entire game. Make sure to use them. You can craft more or buy more throughout the game. They can give you a substantial edge in battle, allowing you to just outright ignore a lot of different types of damage and giving you resistance to other types of damage. They are very helpful, especially in boss battles. Do not forget to use them. Tip number 8 can be kind of hard, especially if you've never played the game before, so see tip number 1 and don't do that. But that is to be sneaky and use mines, set traps, and use those to your advantage. It's all about working smarter and not harder. I mean, why would you send in your squad to have to fight a boss at full health when it's possible to set a trap for them, lure them into it, and then have to fight them at a third or half health? It's going to make the fight much easier for you, and especially whenever the bosses are getting a lot harder, it's totally acceptable to try to use this strategy. It's not cheap at all. Take, for example, the tank on Telos in Knights of the Old Republic 2. Now, because I've played the game before, I know that that tank droid is going to be coming. And instead of fighting him at full health, why not just place a few mines around where he's going to come out and maybe even kill him outright? Or just be able to fight him at lower health. It's going to make the fight substantially easier. So give that a try for one if you're playing Knights of the Old Republic 2. But in general, don't be afraid to set up traps and lure bosses into them to make these fights much easier. Tip number 9 is essentially don't be lazy. Do not auto-level your companions. I mean, I get it. The best part of the game is getting to upgrade your personal character. See those damage numbers start to skyrocket and see those really awesome force powers you're going to get to use. But this is not a one-player game. You get companions and you get to use a party for a reason. They all have skills and feats that are unique to them that are important to use throughout the game. Take Beodur, for instance. I bet you didn't even know that he has the disruptor capability, that he can disrupt enemy shields, which is a very nice skill to use on Telos whenever you're forced to use him. Many of the droid and mercenary enemies are going to use personal energy shields. So instead of using it the hard way and having to break through those shields, send in Beodur to just go ahead and break through them with his disruptor arm. He might die, but it's going to make it much easier for you and your other companion to break through them if they don't have to worry about breaking through those energy shields first. Especially in Knights of the Old Republic 2, where skills have added importance because they're used in crafting, do not auto-level your companion's skills. Make sure to diversify and specialize your character so that you can craft all of the different types of upgrades and items that you're going to need throughout the game. Take those extra couple of minutes to upgrade your characters because trust me, it's going to be worth it in the long run. Tip number 11 is pretty straightforward, and that is always have someone in your party that knows Force Heal. Now, obviously, this isn't an option in the early game, but once you unlock Force Heal and you have multiple Jedi companions that can join you, always make sure to have someone in your party that knows Force Heal so that you're not hamstrung by med packs and antidote kits to heal any vitality points or poison you might contract. It's very helpful to be able to heal between battles without having to rely on supplies to do it for you. Tip number 11, always get Force immunity. I mean, we all know this is a Star Wars game, so as you might expect, you're going to have to fight a lot of lightsaber-wielding, force-using enemies. And the best defense that you can possibly have against those force powers is going to be force immunity. It makes it much harder for the enemies to use force powers against you and makes it much easier for you to save. I don't have any more to say about this, just make sure to get it. Tip number 12 goes back to the don't be lazy idea, and that is to upgrade everyone's weapons and armor, not just yours. Like I said, this is a team game. You have companions with you for a reason. They're not just meant to be meat shields. They can actually do damage and help you out. Give their weapons some upgrades, give their armor upgrades, increase their survivability, and make them more useful in combat. Don't just use them for their skills. They can actually be viable assets. Make sure to use them as such. Another tip that not everyone is going to love, not all of your companions need to have two-handed weapons. I'm sorry to say, but feats do come at a premium, and especially in Knights of the Old Republic 1, characters like Scoundrels and Jedi Consulars who get feats so rarely just cannot afford to have two-handed weapons. They're going to be so weak, and you're going to have to miss out on some other very important feats for that class, so sometimes it is necessary to just have those characters use one-handed weapons. I promise, they are still going to be able to be effective with one-handed weapons. Don't try to put them out of their class and use weapons that they can't use or can't be effective with. For tip number 14, just make sure that you are breaking down or selling any unnecessary weapons or armor that you pick up throughout the game. Throughout either Knights of the Old Republic 1 or 2, you are going to pick up significantly more weapons than you will know what to do with. Do not hold on to those extra weapons that you're never going to use. Sell them in Knights of the Old Republic 1 or in Knights of the Old Republic 2, break them down for components so that you can craft usable upgrades for the weapons that you are actually going to use, or sell them if you really need those credits to buy that lightsaber crystal. Don't let them sit around getting dusty and old. Sell them, break them down, turn them into something usable that will help you along your journey. Tip number 15 is KOTOR 2 specific, and that is to don't forget to use your chemicals to craft medpacks, grenades, implants, and mines to use throughout your journey. There are going to be times in Knights of the Old Republic 2 where you don't have a force healer with you, or that force heal is going to use a lot of force points that you can't really afford to use at a certain time, or that you've already expended all of them. Make sure you have those extra med packs, those implants, those upgrades on hand, as well as any grenades or mines to use to set traps and to defeat your enemies. They're really easy to forget about, so make sure that you put them to good use, have those implants, have those upgrades available to you, and they may save your life in battle someday. This next tip is another one that's hard to do if you've never played the game, and that is to upgrade your weapons situationally in Knights of the Old Republic 2 for any upcoming battles or areas that you're going to be facing. For example, on Telos, I know when I go into the military base, I am going to be fighting almost exclusively droids for the next area or two. So it would behoove me to upgrade my weapons and the weapons of my companions if possible to have ion upgrades so that I can easily take out droids. In general, if you're going into an area where you know that you're going to have to face organics, droids, people with certain types of resistances, upgrade your weapons accordingly to make the fight easier. Don't let those upgrades just sit around, and don't try to have a one upgrade fits all weapon. Try to change up your weapon upgrades so that you're ready for the upcoming situation. Next is a tip that I need to work on myself, and that is to make sure you're using all of your characters throughout combat and not just controlling your player character. I know that I praised the AI just a little bit earlier, but they're not as smart as we are. So make sure to control all of your different characters to make sure they're attacking the right enemies, using the right type of weapons, using grenades, using force abilities. The AI doesn't always control all of these things, so make sure to use your characters optimally and don't just focus on your player character. It's going to increase your damage output substantially in battle when you're using your entire team optimally and effectively. Tip number 18 is an important one, and that is that critical hit immunity is your friend. The retinal combat implant really is a game changer, because if you're like me, it always seems like enemies are landing crits and dealing 50 or 60 damage to you at the least opportune times. Not that there is an opportune time to be hit by a crit, but there's a lot of times whenever you can take 2 or 3 more hits, but you could only take 1 more crit before you're dead. And they always seem to land a crit at that time. Retinal combat implant, Masasi ceremonial armor, anything that gives you critical damage immunity is huge and can really turn the tide in battle if enemies cannot land crits on you. So make sure, if you're playing Knights of the Old Republic 2, have 14 in Constitution so that you can equip that implant and not be suffering any critical hits from enemies. Our penultimate tip is another big one, and that is do not use armor that restricts your force powers. This is another comment that is very common on a lot of my videos, and it is that people are using normal armor on their characters that are force sensitive. Using regular armor instead of robes or armors that don't restrict force powers is a terrible mistake to use. A lot of people say they don't use them because they need that extra defense to protect their Jedi, because on hard difficulty, they suffer too much damage. It's important to note that 1, higher defense does not reduce the amount of damage that you take, it just makes it harder for people to land hits. And number 2, there are force powers that you can use, as well as your companions can use for you, that increase your defense to the same point that armor would. Use the armor that is not going to restrict your force powers so that you can use things like force speed, force armor, lightning. all of those different force powers. You're a Jedi. Make sure to be able to use all of your different powers and abilities. Don't restrict yourself behind armor, because it really is not going to be the most beneficial way to play the game in the long run. Alright guys, my last tip for you on how to play the game on hard difficulty is to make sure you're still having fun while you're doing it. If you're playing Knights of the Old Republic 1 or 2 on hard difficulty and you're just finding it to be a grind and it's just hard and you're not enjoying yourself, stop. It's not worth it. Do not ruin one of the best Star Wars games there is, and don't ruin your experience by playing it on hard. Play it on medium, play it on easy, just enjoy the game. Don't ruin it for yourself by playing it on hard. Guys, that's all I've got for you today. Hopefully you found these tips helpful. If you have any other tips for anyone else that's going through any trouble on hard difficulty, put them down in the comments. Everyone will be thankful for it. If you found this helpful, please drop a like. It does help other people find this video. And if you want to get notifications for any new videos that I make, hit the subscribe button and don't forget that notification bell so you get notifications for any new videos or live streams. And we'll see you guys in another video. Have a good one.
Get down to the B side.